I'm James Riley from innovationoz.com. I'm talking today with Senior Vice President for Verizon, the global technology group, Rob Le Busque. Hi, Rob. How are you?
I'm well, James. Thanks for having me.
Look, Verizon has been a big supporter of the Innovation Oz 2021 Awards for Excellence coming up in a week or so from now. Thanks very much for that, Rob, and we're going to talk a little bit about innovation in Australia. Just before we do, just given your vantage point looking across the region, here in Australia, obviously the economy seems to be gearing up. We're post-lockdown now. There's a lot of, seems to be optimism. What are you seeing for the economy broadly and tech and innovation more specifically, both here and what's it look like across Asia?
Thanks, James. That's a good place to start. I think when you look at Australia and the Asia Pacific region, there is a rising sense of optimism. And I think the other thing that I would use to describe it is this rapid acceleration of capability and investment. And that's not just unique to Australia, but elsewhere around the region as well. We've learned one thing in the last 2 years with the pandemic response, and that is just how interdependent on technology our societies, our workplaces, and our healthcare are. And that has changed and shifted the dynamic of how we'll go forward as societies and as nations. If we think about Australia in particular, Australia has a rich history of innovation, particularly in the technology area. If we think about, there's many, but if we think about some of more recent times, the electronic pacemaker was invented here in Australia, the black box flight recorder, the precursor to Google Maps, the ultrasound scanner. All of these technologies were developed and innovated here in Australia. And I think there's an opportunity right now where we've seen this convergence of societal change, new waves of technology and access capability and access to capital markets coming together to provide a really fertile ground for innovation for the Australian business community.
Okay, as a global technology provider, Verizon obviously has both breadth and depth of capability. You're a little bit of a different organisation here in Australia. Just kind of describe what you sort of bring to the table in terms of tech or capability and expertise, and then where does Australia kind of fit into that, or Australian innovators? Like, where does our capability kind of marry with the kinds of things that you guys are providing?
Firstly, we bring access to global platforms and capability at scale and a size not available only in Australia. The second thing we bring is the ability to invest in and support the innovation agenda for organisations for technology here in Australia as well. We've been operating in Australia for more than 20 years. And throughout that 20-year period, we've supported and helped many Australian-based organisations drive, deliver and expand their businesses into international markets. That remains the same today. Now, if I give you a couple of examples of that, today we work significantly with a number of electronic payment platform organisations in Australia, helping them to use world's best of breed IT security and cybersecurity capabilities, things like zero trust and credential management, so that they can accelerate their business models and expand into new markets with that trust and surety that's just so important for the payment sector. Another example would be where we've worked with companies here in Australia to help them solve what somewhat might regard to be a bit of an old world problem in campuses and facilities that are either heritage listed or where the environmental systems and structures mean that they can't necessarily run hardwired infrastructure. So that's where new technologies such as 5G and edge compute come into play, because we can deploy them on large campus-style environments without having to interact with the built environment in a material way. So we have the ability to support and bring our own innovation agenda to support organisations here in Oz.
Okay, you and I have talked previously about the historical evolution of 3G, 4G, and now 5G. We know that with the introduction of 4G and location services and that kind of thing really changed everything. What are we talking about with 5G then? Where do you see, the kind of the killer application?
James, I truly don't believe that the true killer application or many of the use cases that will accelerate our economies and our opportunity on 5G have even been imagined yet. Have even been imagined. And I say that because when we talk about the technology as a platform, we talk about 8 currencies, so 8 attributes of 5G that are very different to previous wireless networks. Just 2 of those alone, ultra high bandwidth, ultra low latency, are critical when you think about things like autonomous vehicles, drone control and management, some of the things that become more material when we think about the connected world. But think about the ability to optimize battery life on devices, which is one of the other currencies for 5G. That in and of itself will create and provide opportunity for innovation, for design, for economic benefit, and for new business models. And once organizations and technology-led organizations in particular start to really grip up and understand the capability of the network, I think we're going to see some amazing things.
Right, Rob Le Busque, you guys are obviously major sponsors of our awards. I'm assuming you've had a look at some of the finalists that will be competing on that time. What's sort of interesting to you?
Oh, look, they're all fantastic companies. And I think what it really represents, and the reason why we're so proud to be associated with it, is tapping into that rich legacy of innovation and forward thinking that I referenced at the start. Australia has a very rich legacy of more than 100 years of innovation, design, and new ideas. And all of the organizations that we'll be looking at the awards represent that today. So I'm really excited to get to understand more about what they do, and I'm really excited to recognize their efforts as well.
All right, looking forward to seeing you on the night. Rob Le Busque, Vice President, Verizon, thank you very much.
Thanks, James.